your host, Ashley Little. A little bit about me. I'm a corporate professional by day, entrepreneur by night, two-time best-selling author, speaker, executive director of DMV Masterminds, co-host of the Tammy Collins Marquis radio show, host of Authors on the Rise, co-founder of Sweetheart Scholars Nonprofit, owner and creator of Creative Broadcasting, co-founder and owner of Talk Radio and TV Network, LLP, and blogger and media for Black Women Hustle. Today, we have a phenomenal guest. Her name is Dr. Marquita Blaze. A little bit about her. Dr. Marquita S. Blaze is an award-winning educator, international speaker, best-selling author, publisher, and education consultant with 16 years of experience as a high school science teacher and manager of national STEM programs for high-achieving high school students. Dr. Blaze is the owner of Dr. Blaze Consulting, which offers prescriptive solutions to learning institutions and individuals through professional development programs, curriculum and assessment writing, conference planning and programming, and individual teacher education consultant coaching services in the areas of STEM instruction and teacher burnout. Dr. Blaze is also the founder of the Mediocre Teacher Project, which helps teachers avoid and battle through burnout by incorporating their unique gifts and talents into their daily practice. In 2017, Dr. Blaze launched the Dr. Marquita Blaze Show, candid conversations that create change, an internet-based broadcast dedicated to discussing current trends and issues in education. Dr. Blaze is a contributing author for The Whole Truth and Lessons from My Grandmother's Lap, both anthologies, the lead author for the Mediocre Teacher Project and Chronicles of the Chronically Ill, also anthologies, and the author of Powerful Teaching Strategies for Increasing Engagement and Collaboration while Maintaining Rigor in Science Courses, a collective of instructional strategies for middle and high school science teachers. Dr. Blaze is one of the three co-founders of Girlfriend Collective, along with Maureen Baker and Cindy Fontaine. Dr. Blaze holds a Bachelor's of Interdisciplinary Studies in Broadfield Science from Georgia State University, a Master of Science in Technical and Professional Communication from Southern State University, and a Doctor of Education and Instructional Leadership from Nova Southeastern University. When she is not working, Dr. Blaze enjoys reading, cooking, and traveling with her husband. Learn more about Dr. Blaze and her work by visiting www.drmarquitablaze.com. Welcome to my special VIP guest, Dr. Marquita Blaze. How are you today?
Ashley, I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me this evening, and also congratulations on this awesome platform.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity to interview you today. You have an awesome bio, and, I know you're talking about reinventing yourself today because you definitely have done that. So what I would like to do before we get started is for you to tell the listening audience a little bit more about you.
You've been through my entire bio. I am a career educator. Being a teacher is what I wanted to be when I grew up. So my entire school life, I prepared for a career in education. I never really saw myself as being an entrepreneur, but now that I look back over the years when I was teaching and some of the things that I kind of did on the side, the entrepreneurial spirit has always been there, even though it wasn't fully my intention to be a full-time entrepreneur at the time.
Okay. So I see that you said you were, since a young age, always wanted to be a teacher, and then you transitioned over to the entrepreneur side. So tell us a little bit more about your entrepreneur journey and what caused that transition.
Yeah, so in becoming a teacher, I always knew that I wanted to live a particular lifestyle that a teacher's salary just would not afford me to live. So I've never just taught. I've always had some other side hustle or part-time job throughout my career as a teacher. I was in the classroom for 16 years, and so initially I think I may have worked part-time at Linens and things, and that helped me pay for my master's degree. And then I would work my summers, as you mentioned when you were reading my bio, working for programs for high-achieving high school students, and I kind of worked my way up through the ranks there. So I went from being a faculty member, working directly with the students, to then being a site manager for the program, where I would then hire, train, and manage the staff, as well as work behind the scenes on developing what that 10-day program would look like. I have done several MLM companies on the side to bring in additional income, and along the way I've just always tried to create other opportunities for myself to utilize the talents that I felt I wasn't able to utilize in the classroom on a daily basis. So after 16 years, starting into my 17th year, it was about 3 weeks into the school year, and at this point, I had been teaching for about 8 years with a chronic illness, lupus, and so I was basically going to work in pain almost every single day. And some days were a lot better than others. There were some days where I could push through the pain and I could still be a great teacher, and there were some days where literally all I could do was sit at my desk all day and just wait for the bell to ring and for the next class to come in and sit down and do work, and then the bell to ring and they move on. And I was literally functioning in survival mode. And so about 3 weeks into my 17th year, I had to go out on medical leave because I had already missed maybe like 5 days of school in that short amount of time. And once I went on medical leave, I was home. Maybe the first week passed. I had 30 days that I was supposed to be home. After the first week, I pretty much knew that I could not go back. There was just such a drastic difference in being sick and not being committed to anyone, and then being sick and not having to get out of the bed. So even though the pain was still there was something very comforting about that. I could just lay on my couch and be in pain without, versus being in pain and having to still be accountable to 17, 18 students at a time. And so the decision was made. My husband said, you know what, yeah, I think it is also time for you to come out of the classroom, because we knew that I couldn't get better as long as I kept up that daily routine of having to force myself to work while I was sick. But just to kind of back up a little bit, within my 15th and 16th year of teaching, I got a lot of leadership opportunities where I was either leading professional development in my building or in my district, as well as I had started to present at conferences. And so my work was getting a lot of attention outside of the classroom. And so when I went on medical leave and my husband said, you know what, I think we just need to go ahead and resign altogether, he also brought to my attention, well, you know, your work has been getting a lot of focus and you've been doing a lot of things outside of the district, so why don't we just take that path and develop it into a full-fledged consulting business, and you'll be able to work on your own terms. And so that's how I kind of got forced into entrepreneurship full-time.
And that is amazing, you know, from what a couple of different things you said that I want to point out. You know, pushing through the pain, right? That shows great dedication and great commitment that you were passionate about education, passionate about being a teacher, and you pushed through. So that, I just want to commend you for doing that. Also, as you stated, while you were the teacher, you continued to create your own opportunities, and you were having multiple streams of income. So you just didn't have one income. You were still planting those seeds. And then you were stepped out on medical leave. and that really pushed you out into entrepreneurship. So what was really, what looked like a bad thing turned around for your good, and you had that support system from your husband as well. So I just want to commend you for just pushing through, and now look at all the great things that you have done.
Actually, it is so amazing to me when I look at where I was versus where I am now, because you're right. When I was initially diagnosed with lupus, it never crossed my mind that I would have to give up the career I love because of this disease. It was always my intent to just fight through it, because I couldn't imagine myself not teaching. And anybody who has known me for a significant amount of time, they can tell you how much I love getting up, going to work, and teaching every day, almost to the point where people would be like, you're crazy for loving that career as much as you do, because everybody kind of sees teaching as a thankless job. They all say, well, you don't get paid enough, and you're so smart. You could do anything. Why are you doing that? And I was doing it because it really is what I love to do. And so when I look at where I am now in terms of my consulting and the number of other teachers that I'm able to impact, there's no way it could have happened. There's no way it would have happened, because I was so comfortable. I was good at it. My salary was at a good point. And because I made money doing other things, the salary really didn't bother me. So there really was no reason for me to step out and give consulting a chance, even though I would say to people, one day I'm going to consult, one day I'm going to write, I want to travel, and I want to speak and inspire other teachers. But I wasn't taking any of the steps necessary to make that become a reality.
But you were speaking it into existence, and look at it now. And the key thing out of all of this conversation is that you did not give up. But what you did, even though you took the medical leave and that season was over, you created your own door, right? And you created opportunities for everybody else and for other teachers to get to the next level. So congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So, Dr. Blaze, you are the owner of Dr. Blaze Consulting, which offers prescriptive solutions to learning institutions and individuals through professional development programs, curriculum and assessment writing, conference planning and programming, and individual teacher and art education consultant coaching services in the areas of STEM, instruction, and teacher burnout. Will you please tell the listening audience more about why you started this awesome company?
I kind of touched on it a little bit. So I started the company because I couldn't continue traditional teaching, but I was at the height of my teaching. Actually, at this point where I was getting called upon to do all of these different things, I know a promotion was on the horizon. And so to have to step away at that point, it was really difficult. So launching the consulting firm just seemed like the right thing to do so that I wouldn't have to give up my career completely. So when I use the term prescriptive solutions, that's a very strategic term, because when I started working on my doctoral degree in instructional leadership, it was my intent to become an instructional coach for my school district. So I wanted to do what I'm doing now, but I wanted that to be my official paid position for a school district. And I remember telling my grandmother at the time, she was still alive, that I was enrolled in a doctoral program. I'm going to be a doctor. And she said, what kind of doctor? And I said, I'm doing a PhD program. And she was like, oh, a PhD, that's a book doctor. She said, real doctors write prescriptions. And I will never forget her saying that. And so when I started my consulting company, it just kind of stuck out to me that my grandma used to say, real doctors write prescriptions. But I write prescriptions too. Yes. Prescriptions for education. I solve problems that schools and school districts have in terms of quality instruction in their science classes. If I'm working with an organization and I'm helping them with conference planning, it is a prescription, because I'm coming in and I'm looking to solve whatever problems they've had in terms of their programming and their efficiency. And then in terms of teacher burnout, I'm definitely writing prescriptions because what I help teachers do is look at their daily practice. Then we also do an assessment of their talents, their skills, and their interests. And I help teachers look at how much they are incorporating their talents, their natural abilities, and their interests into their daily practice. And a lot of times the reason why we as teachers experience that burnout is because we are not able to fully incorporate our talents in a way that feels natural to us. We get a lot of people telling us, you have to do it this way, you can't do that, you can't say this, and it leads to the burnout. And so with me, I help teachers identify what are the things that really make me happy, how would I have fun doing this job, and then I help them translate that into their practice in the classroom. And so that's really what Dr. Blade's consulting is all about, is just helping organizations be able to capitalize and maximize on the talent, the resources that already exist so that they can enhance whatever it is that they're doing.
That's amazing. And having that support system for teachers is definitely important. I mean, I work in the education system as well. Not a teacher, but I'm in the education field. And the burnout is definitely happening. And the fact that you have that, your consulting business, and it's there to go in and help to, prevent them from burning out is awesome. And, I mean, you went through it, so you're not just going in and giving prescriptions, but you're actually talking from experience as well. And I'm sure your grandmother is proud, too, as she look at all this great consulting business that you have started to give back and create opportunities to help our teachers become better teachers and better educators.
So she has since passed away, but I know for certain that she would be extremely proud of the fact that I am able to reach so many other educators. And that also is what's really amazing about this journey, is because I worked sick for a long time because I felt like nobody could reach my kids the way I could. As a science teacher, I had an ability to make kids really enjoy a class that they were intimidated by, that they weren't interested in. I just had a way of making them say, I think I probably could see myself doing this, and I wasn't even interested in this class in the beginning. And so I know that what I was doing was impactful on some level, and so I didn't want to walk away. There were times when I thought about taking medical leave, or I thought about taking a year off, but I kept telling myself, nobody can do with my kids what I can do with my kids. But now that I am able, it's one thing for me to have 125 students on my roster that I impact. But in one day, I can go train 125 teachers. And each of those 125 teachers may have 125 students of their own. So now I have multiplied my impact, and I'm able to reach even more students. And that was a vision that, I couldn't process that back then. All I was looking at was my kids in my classroom. But now I can see where I'm able to use my talents to impact kids in classrooms that they will never get to meet me face-to-face, but they definitely will get the benefit of my experience and the way that I do things in the classroom.
So what are some strategies you would give to teachers who are listening that might be experiencing burnout?
The first strategy, and it's going to sound counterproductive, but the first strategy that I would give to a teacher who is burnt out is to stop taking work home. And usually a teacher who is experiencing burnout is probably behind in their work. They're behind in lesson plans, behind in grading, maybe behind on some committee things that they need to do. But the first thing you need to do is put some of that work down. So stop bringing work home. Find some outlets that make you happy. Prior to my lupus diagnosis, I was in the gym 5 days a week at 4 o'clock in the morning before I would go teach. After teaching, I was in the dance studio 3 nights a week, taking dance classes. And then I was also heavily involved with my sorority and other community organizations. My weekends and my evenings belonged to me, Ashley. And it's kind of funny that during those days, the less time I spent at school, the more productive and effective my teaching was. And it's because my life had balance. I was able to see the things that kind of kept me happy as a person overall, so that when I walked into the classroom, the kids were getting the best version of me. After my lupus diagnosis and I was in pain all the time, first I stopped dancing. Then I stopped being active with the sorority. Eventually I stopped working out. I stopped doing all of those things, and all my life was go to work in pain, come home in pain. So now you can imagine the person who's standing in front of these students every day. It's not a person who had fun over the weekend. It's not a person who just kind of hopped on a plane on a whim and went to New Orleans and just got back at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I saw some stuff in New Orleans that now I can incorporate into my lesson plans. So the more bogged down you become with work, in my opinion, the less productive it makes you overall. So you got to put some boundaries on how you approach the work, and you have got to incorporate some outside interests, and you definitely have to get on a routine of self-care.
So for any teacher that is listening that is going through burnout, stop taking work home. What's number one? Have balance and self-care. Those are important. Those are important keys to being a successful educator. Those are important keys just in order for all of us in many different careers to have that. And creating those boundaries are so important. So, Dr. Blaze, you're also the founder of the Mediocre Teacher Project, which helps teachers avoid and battle through burnout by incorporating their unique gifts and talents into their daily practice. So please tell the listening audience more about the Mediocre Teacher Project.
When I first started my consulting business, I was more focused on the burnout than I was the STEM. And I just think for obvious reasons, because emotionally, that is what took me out of the classroom. And I thought, if I'm experiencing this and I'm performing still at a high level, because a lot of my colleagues didn't even believe anything was wrong with me. And when I resigned, they were like, why isn't she coming back? I know she said she has an illness, but it never seemed like anything was wrong with her, you know. But I realized, how many more teachers must be dealing with something similar? So when I first started my consulting practice, I heavily focused on the burnout side. And I created a workshop where teachers come in and they take an assessment, and we look at what their interests are. And I just ask them to do some deep reflection. How much of your interests are you incorporating into how you teach? And a lot of times we don't do that because that's not what we're trained to do. We are trained to cater to the students' interests and their learning styles, and we should, but the reason why I want teachers to learn how to incorporate their own interests into how they teach is because, obviously, if I'm having fun, then the students are going to pick up on that positive energy from me, and now they're going to have a good time. I mentioned earlier that students used to love my chemistry class, and they would tell me all the time, I don't like science. I just love this class. The reason why they loved it is because I loved it. I came in making chemistry sound like the most fun thing to do. And if I'm laughing and having a good time, obviously they are too. And so I teach the teachers to look at their talents, and I say, reflect now, how much of your talents are you incorporating into your daily practice? And then I also help them to maybe think about what are some of the other things that you could be doing as an educator, because we always think that, this is what teachers say all the time, but teaching is my calling. I can't leave. I've been called to work with young people. And one of the things that we do in the Mediocre Teacher Project is we take a look at, but how are you called to work with young people? working with young people might be your calling, but there's other ways to do that. You don't have to be a K through 12 classroom teacher to do that. You can start your own summer program. You can start your own weekend enrichment camp. Like, you could do online class. There are so many different things that you can do. You can be a community coach. You can volunteer with the Girl Scouts. There are so many other ways to be an educator and not be a classroom teacher. And so I help teachers to look at what are some other options for me if this classroom situation is not working. And then I also help them, if they are interested in starting a consulting firm, I help them figure out what are their most effective skills and talents and strategies, and I help them turn that into multiple workshops that can then be the basis of their education consulting company.
That is simply amazing, and pretty much you're helping them step out and be more creative, you know, and pushing them out of their box and making them uncomfortable, because uncomfortable is good, to create more opportunities for themselves. So that's amazing, and I'm sure. How is with your results thus far? Because I know you've been all over the city and you've been traveling a lot. How has it been going with the results of the consulting work with some of the teachers in different areas and states?
You know, Ashley, the teacher mindset is one that is very hard to overcome, because we are taught that if you love kids, you have to sacrifice yourself and your own happiness, and most of all, that you shouldn't care about financial gain in the process. If you're doing it for the kids, you don't worry about the money. And so one of the main things that I see with my clients is helping them overcome that mindset and understanding that you can love kids and you can love to teach, and you can also want to get paid for your talents. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And so I have people who, with clients who kind of already had a side hustle, I see them stepping out, taking the steps, getting out there, putting themselves out there, starting to speak at conferences and do workshops and trainings and things. And for those that don't have that entrepreneurial spirit, I am having to kind of go back now and do mindset training with them, because there's a lot of unlearning and reteaching that has to be done around the teacher mindset. And that's really what I'm seeing. Either people they're either really doing it or they're really not, to be totally honest.
And you said one key word, and it was mindset. Once we get our mindset together, then the execution will come. So you're right. It's just all about getting it into our minds to want to be better, to want to step out and be uncomfortable. And I think that's a big thing, too. A lot of us don't like to be uncomfortable, and we don't want to embrace it, but we have to in order to get to that next level.
We have to. And, you know, a lot of people are afraid of the critique that's going to come, because as teachers, we get a lot of professional development from a lot of people. And so we compare. And we may ask, and this may happen in other fields too, I'm sure it does, but we'll say, well, what I'm doing is not like what that person is doing. And so if they're popular for doing it that way, I'm not going to be popular for doing it my way. But what we have to realize is that everybody's contributions are significant. And just because you're not doing it the same way as somebody else doesn't make what you're doing any less valuable.
Right. And I agree. And we should embrace being unique. Everybody has a different journey, and we should embrace that. I definitely agree. So, Dr. Blaze, you are one of the nation's top STEM education consultants and leading trainers of the next generation science standard, which is amazing. Please tell the listening audience how one can reach this goal.
So, a good mentor of mine, he told me, this has been about 2 years ago, so I resigned in 2016. So this must have been maybe 6 or 8 months after I resigned from teaching. And we were on the phone, and I was naming some of the top male educators in the country. And then I said, well, who are the top female education consultants? And I know there are some. I know there are, but there were
Right.
none that just automatically popped into my head. And he didn't call any names immediately either. We both were quiet for like 30 seconds, and then he said, "You are Dr. Blade. That's your space." He said, "If you are envisioning a space and nobody has filled it, it's your space to walk into." And when he told me that, I really embraced it. I said, okay, when I think STEM educators on the national level, I don't have a name of a female educator that I can associate with that. So, yes, I am going to put my name, fill my name in that blank. And how I did that, Ashley, was literally by getting myself in front of as many audiences as possible. So in the early days, I was presenting and speaking anywhere that I could get on the program, any and everywhere that they would allow me the opportunity. I was there and I was doing it. And so sometimes I had rooms that were standing room only with people pulling up chairs outside of the room I'm in. And then there were other times when I may have flown to another state. For instance, I flew to Texas one time to speak, and only 5 people showed up for my session. But every single time I speak, I'm going to give the audience that same high energy, that same quality. I'm going to give them all the high-level, valuable information, because it doesn't matter how many people are in the room. You don't know who those 5 people could be the top 5 officials for a particular school district, whereas the 200 people, and not a single one of them may be a decision maker. So you never know who you're talking to. You've always got to go in front of every group of people and just give your best. So that's one thing. You just got to, put your best foot forward at all times. You got to put yourself out there as much as possible. You have to go ahead and say who you are, claim your space. Now, in terms of being one of the leading trainers of the next generation science standards, that's something that has been years in the making. Of course, I didn't know it at the time, but I worked in 2 different school districts at a time where each district was either piloting the next generation science standards or they were just on the cusp of actually implementing them. And in both of those situations, I served on committees where it was my job to help convert the current curriculum into a curriculum that was aligned with next generation science standards. And at the time that I was doing it, I have to be totally honest, I was only doing it for the extra pay. I wasn't doing it thinking that, a couple of years from now, this will be a part of my consulting. But having had that experience of working with districts who were on the front end of rolling it out and adapting their curriculum, I learned a lot about these standards. And so now that the rest of the nation is coming on board and adopting the standards, and a lot of districts are still in the early implementation stages, I realized that this is a service that I could offer. So right now, one of my major clients who books me for, I would say, 75 to 80% of my consulting, myself, along with 3 other trainers that they have, collectively have provided the most next generation science standards training throughout the nation, even more than the National Science Teachers Association.
Wow.
So between the 4 of us, we have trained more teachers in the country on the next generation science standards. And that happened simply because, when I worked for the school district, I was selected as someone to help on those committees.
Wow. First, I want to say congratulations on all of these amazing accomplishments. But some key things that I want the listening audience to jot down or take notes on is, she said, put your best foot forward, put yourself out there, claim your space. She went from talking to 5 people to teaching and training educators all over the country. That's amazing. And not only did you do that, you created your own opportunities, but you also created your own stage. And we have to be able to not let fear stop us and put ourselves out there. And if the door doesn't open, create your own stage, create your own opportunity.
Absolutely, Ashley. I have put on workshops here locally where sometimes it was just my friends who signed up and came. And when they came, I still trained them as if they were a room full of teachers who didn't know me. So, showing up is a huge part of it. But from me doing that, one of my friends then ended up booking me to work in her building because she's an assistant principal. And then another friend ended up talking to someone about me who ended up booking me. Another one of my colleagues who was there ended up telling me about another conference. Oh, then maybe you should try to come speak at this conference. And then from me speaking at that particular conference, I spoke at that conference 2 years in a row. I just came as a presenter. And then this year, they contacted me and said, well, now we want you to do a pre-conference workshop. So now I'm going to be doing a half-day workshop at that conference where people will come a day early to learn from me for 3 full hours of teaching. And so even if it's a crowd of people who you don't feel like at the time, maybe you don't think they're your target audience, or maybe you feel like, well, these people are just here to support me because they have to, but you still don't know what next opportunity that's going to lead to, because nobody has to do anything. Nobody had to pass my name on. Nobody had to consider me, but they did anyway because I showed up. And even though it was a room full of my friends, I still gave them the best Dr. Blaze that I could give them.
And Dr. Blaze, that's what I tell anyone. I would like to tell the listening audience as well. You know, we have to be careful to not despise open for you. And we have to, because you never know. That one, it only takes one person that can open some major doors for you. But you have to, like she said, show up. That's key as well. We can't expect to get to the next level if we're not showing up.
Do not despise small beginnings. Yes.
Yes. So now I'm excited for this next question because I'm just excited for it. So you are also a 3-time best-selling author and one of the co-founders of the Girlfriend Collective, along with Maureen Baker and Cindy Fontaine. Please tell the listening audience how you all went from an idea, a collaboration project, birthing best-selling authors all over the world, to a publishing company, which is huge.
Ashley. So everybody who's listening, Ashley is one of our contributing authors on the Girlfriend Code Volume 1, which started out as the Girlfriend Code. There were no volumes to it. It started because back in 2011, Maureen, myself, and another person that we were working with at the time started an organization for women called the Girlfriend Spot. And it was for networking and socializing and just a group of women who could get together and have an outlet for having fun and supporting each other professionally. Life kind of took over, and we all went our separate ways. And then Maureen kind of reminded me that we had started this project years ago, and by the time she brought it to my attention, I had already put out my 2 anthologies, The Mediocre Teacher Project and Chronicles of the Chronically Ill. And so I said to her, we definitely need to pick this back up again, but what if this time we did it as an anthology? And she loved the idea. And so we started recruiting co-authors. How we went from idea to collaboration project, so that's that part. Now into the publishing side of it, throughout the process of working on the project, we just kind of learned that there were going to be some connections that were not going to last for the life of the project, to put it mildly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to move on from those connections. And in doing so, we came to the realization that this is a vision that had been sitting with us for years. And there was really no outside person who we could bring in who would bring it to life as well as we could. And so we stopped looking for someone else to do that, and we decided to take that on ourselves. And that's how the publishing side of it came to be. And so now we have close to 30 total co-authors between Volume 1, which was released on January 9th, and Volume 2, which will be coming out at the end of March, as well as a pipeline of ladies who are waiting to write Volume 3. That will kick off soon as well.
Well, I just want to say congratulations. It's been and I can speak just being a part of the project. It has been an awesome sisterhood. It's not just a book. It's a movement. And I would just want to say to anybody that would like to join the Girlfriend Collective, please do. And, it's so much. I mean, it's not only just writing a book, but you're going to get training. You're going to actually build genuine relationships. You're actually going to build genuine collaborations, and there's a lot of opportunities with it, that Dr. Blades and Maureen and Cindy have created for Girlfriend Collective. So it just has been awesome, and I'm just so excited for what's to come. And one thing that you did say, Dr. Blades, is that you all had a vision. You all were determined to do it. And I must say you all did it, and you made sure you did it no matter what. But I want the listening audience to know that everyone is not going to see your vision, right? So you got to let them go. Let them go. And get with the people who see your vision, right? And we have to embrace that process. A lot of us let that discourage us and stop us because somebody doesn't see our vision. We have to learn to embrace it because it's part of the process. If you would have stopped when those people did not see your vision, you all wouldn't be a publishing house today.
We would not, Ashley. And then women like you who came on the project and just were so eager to jump in and contribute your talent. So I have to thank you for just not only being a co-author, but for contributing to the growth, because when we had people like you coming on and you were already so accomplished in your own right, you made us look at what we were doing, and we realized, this can't just be a book, because we have got some powerhouse women here, and we want this to be a valuable experience for them. So you made us step up our game. We're like, okay, we got to do something. We can't just say, write the book and this is it. These women came to us. They've trusted us. They've joined with us. Now, what are we going to do for them in return? And so y'all definitely encouraged us to level up and to push this to greater heights than what we had even imagined. So I really want to thank you. And you have contributed to those trainings as well, sharing your talents and your expertise.
Yes.
And it's inspiring, not just to the readers of the project, but it's inspiring to all of us who worked on the project, because we are learning things from each other. And even as co-founders and visionary authors, we have all grown so much just in trying to deliver a quality experience to you all.
Well, I just want to say thank you. I'm humble, and thank you for the opportunity as well. I'm just excited and, look forward to the great things that the Girlfriend Collective have going on. And I'm just excited and blessed to be a part of the movement, because it's going to be amazing.
It is. And we got some big announcements coming very soon. So if you're not following the Girlfriend Collective Facebook page, make sure you find the page, like it, follow us on Instagram also, because we have some huge announcements coming very soon.
Yes. So, Dr. Blades, why is reinventing yourself so important? Can you tell the listening audience why that is so important for us to continue to reinvent ourselves?
Yeah. So I want people to look at me and listen to this interview as a walking, talking testimony of why you have to be open in life and you have to be willing to reinvent yourself because circumstances are going to come that you have absolutely no control over. In my situation, it was a chronic illness. And then I didn't even mention, Ashley, some of all the other things that happened as I was dealing with this chronic illness. I can't get into the details of all of them, but I will just briefly mention um, unemployment, underemployment, foreclosure, domestic violence, just to name a few of the things that kind of happened on the side while I was going through so much with my health and those physical challenges. And so for somebody else, it might be a divorce or the loss of a parent or another loved one. But things are going to happen that we have absolutely no control over. And sometimes we can go back to the norm that we used to know, and sometimes there is no going back. And so then what do you do? Do you now just stop living and stop progressing? Or do you find another way to be successful? So prior to my lupus diagnosis, I was so independent. I bought a home by myself. I traveled by myself. Um, I financially provided for my mom. I just did so many things, and I did those things without having to consider or think about anybody else. I was able to just provide a very comfortable lifestyle and live the way that I wanted to live. Now, on this side, post-diagnosis, I can hardly do anything without my mom or my husband doing something. They have to do something behind the scenes to make everything possible that I'm doing today. Writing books, becoming a best-selling author, being a leading STEM consultant, traveling around the country. But I don't do any of that without them having to do something for me on the back end, whether it's traveling with me, whether it's my mom coming to do my laundry and pack my bags, or my husband taking care of all of the cooking so that I'm not fatigued the week leading up to me traveling. Everything I do now is dependent upon another person. But the level of success I'm seeing now as being a dependent person versus an independent person is unparalleled. So, in order to get to where we really are meant to go in life, we have to be willing to adapt and adjust and to reinvent ourselves. If I could only see myself as being a classroom teacher, then I wouldn't be able to walk in the purpose of inspiring other teachers and being a consultant. So sometimes we have to understand that things are not going to look exactly the way that we wanted them to look. And just because they don't look that way doesn't mean that we are now out of our purpose. Like, to me, it's the direct opposite. When everything gets flipped upside down, that's when you really know you on the verge of walking into your purpose. And so you just have to remain open-minded, and you have to say, now how can I still be a teacher but not work for a school district? Or how can I still be an accountant even though this Fortune 500 company let me go?
I love it. And it's a couple of things that I got from what you were saying is that, you did not quit. No matter what, you did not quit. And you don't have any excuses. And that's the key. We can't let excuses stop us. We cannot let excuses stop us from being great. We cannot let excuses stop us from getting to the next level. And like Dr. Blade stated, things are not going to always look right. And when things are flipping upside down, that's when you're getting closer to your destiny. So I know a lot of us, we let our now situation control our next move. And we have to look beyond our now situation, right? And focus on our future and where we're trying to go.
Yeah, we do put a lot of emphasis on what it looks like right now. You're absolutely right. And perseverance is just huge. But this is what I want people to understand. Not giving up and hanging in there, it doesn't mean that you're always winning, right? It doesn't look like a win. Sometimes the win is just the fact that you showed up the next day. You still might not be on top, and that's okay too. Like there has to be some valley moments.
Absolutely. You have to, and you have to embrace those things because that's actually part of the process. I don't want to know if you haven't failed, then you haven't been successful. So that's why we have to embrace being uncomfortable. We have to embrace that, which leads me to this, Dr. Blaze. What did failure teach you?
Failure taught me, Ashley, that everything does not have to be done right now. And then of the stuff that you are doing, it certainly does not have to be perfect. I think what held me back before was trying to know everything in advance. So there was no way I was going to go from being a classroom teacher to being a consultant because I didn't really know how to do it. I didn't know how do you get clients, how do you plan the workshop. I didn't know how to do any of that. And so for that reason, I kept telling myself, well, one day I'm going to do it when I learn how to do it. But not being able to teach anymore, and that felt like failure to me because that was what I had devoted my entire life to. But it taught me now that if you're going to do something, you can't know it all up front. That's number one. And then you shouldn't even worry about knowing it all. You can learn as you go. So when you don't have so great of a presentation this time, it teaches you what to adjust for next time. Or if you weren't as prepared as you could have been, then it teaches you now to, next time I need to make sure do this much so far in advance or do that much so far in advance so that I'm not, spinning my wheels at the last minute. And it's a constant thing. You don't ever get to a point where you always get it right. You're going to constantly see things that could have gone better that you can change and do better next time. So to me, if you're not failing, you don't have the opportunity to learn and improve.
I agree. And listening, what I want you to get from that is to look at failure as a lesson. All right? It's a lesson. And for us to get up, dust ourselves off, and keep going. So, Dr. Blaze, please tell the listening audience how they can follow and contact you.
Yes, I am so easy to find on social media because I'm not that creative with social media names. So I am Marquita Smith Blades on Facebook. I am Dr. Marquita Blades on Instagram. And I am Dr. M. Blades on Twitter.
So please follow her and support all of her amazing projects that are coming up. Support her businesses, her consulting business, for all of our teachers that are experiencing burnout or just need that extra assistance. So please support her. Dr. Blaze has some amazing stuff going on. She's definitely a powerhouse. So I would like to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule today, Dr. Blaze, to give me the opportunity to interview you. And it was a definitely honor to have you as a guest today.
Actually, it was my honor to join you tonight. Again, congratulations on the network and all the new shows that are coming out. And I just thank you so much for the connection that we have made as well, because you definitely have contributed to my recent growth. And I just want to thank you for that.
Now, I'm humble with that. Thank you. You have definitely contributed to mine, too. And it's just the definition of reciprocal relationships, the definition of really building those genuine relationships. And that's what I want the audience to know. You want to build genuine relationships. You don't just want to network, but you want to build genuine relationships.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you, Ashley. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you, Dr. Blaze. So I would like to give some special thanks to two of my mentors, Tammy Collins Marquis and John Schamberger. I also would like to give a special thanks to Dr. Larry White Sr. and author Kimberly McLemore. If you are in the Maryland, VA, or D.C. area, please come out and support the 10th Annual Black History Celebration in Annapolis, Maryland on Saturday, February 9th, 2019 from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. And it's sponsored by Dr. Larry White Sr. and VIP Events Concierge. Our keynote speaker will be Dr. Essie McCoy. Our VIP speakers will be myself, Ashley Little, Dr. Tashika Green, Dr. Valika Moore, Dr. Marcy Ross, author Kimberly McLemore, and author Linda Airy. So please support this awesome event. And we will be back here again on Tuesday for another episode of Creating Your Seat at the Table at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Stay tuned for our special guest announcement. Thank you.